Ever since I found out that I could have my high school exams read to me in a private room if I pretended to be a slow learner, I've been all about working smarter, not harder, and the exact same thing applies to guitar. So we're going to take one complete key, a very popular key, the key of D, and talk about how to maybe make it the most efficient key that you play in, and then kind of just talk about some different tips and stuff that you can do that you can always use in this key or any key if you use a capo, okay? So what I mean by that is we're gonna take all the shapes that make up the key of D, all right? We've talked about this in a few videos before, but I wanna quickly review just the main chords in the key of D, all right? In any key, there's 7 notes. In D, they happen to be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D again. So 2 sharps, all right? F sharp and C sharp. Now, the great thing about that is, that means there's no F note or no C note in there. Why that's important is because all the open strings, E, A, D, G, B, E, are all in this key. So that's going to be a big way of kind of making this sound more efficient as compared to maybe more traditional, all right? So, D major is the main chord in this key, the 1 chord, all right? You probably all know how to play this. 2 on the high E string, 3 on the B string, 2 on the G string. The 2nd chord in the key of D would be E minor, another easy one. The 3rd chord is F sharp minor. That's what kind of gets people a lot. They'll see an F sharp minor. I've seen students see F sharp minor and they're like, next, checking out. It doesn't have to be that way, all right? One of the main things that makes it so hard is you have to bar the whole 2nd fret, get your ring finger on the 4th fret, your pinky on the 4th fret of the A and the D string respectively, and try to get tone from that G string, right, which is tough. You don't have to do it, right? Like I said, there are more efficient ways to do it. Every time you play F sharp minor, if you have trouble with that bar chord, play it just like this. Okay, this is a F sharp minor 7, and it's really, really easy, especially if you're coming from an E minor, okay? Which remember, we said E minor was the 2 chord, F sharp is the 3 chord. All you gotta do is take your middle finger, go 1 string lower to root on the E string, put your pinky behind where your ring finger is, and then just aim for the bottom for the lowest 4 strings. I'm really just hitting the E string, the D string, and the G string, and my middle finger is kind of muting that A string. Again, even if it doesn't mute the A string, that's with it open, sounds great, okay? Technically, this would be like an F sharp minor 7 chord, but you can always use that instead. And even if you hit the open strings on the bottom, that open B and E string, it still sounds great, okay? That's why the advantage of having a key where the open strings are in the key is really super helpful, because you can make an easier, probably better, prettier, more interesting version, depending on how you look at it, voicing of any chord, okay? So we have D, E minor, F sharp minor 7. The next chord would be G major. Know that one, we're just gonna breeze right through that. A would be the 5 chord. B minor is the 6 chord, okay? B minor, while not as hated as the F sharp minor, some people still have a problem with B minor. So we're going to do 2 alternative ways that you could play this chord that'll sound more interesting and that can always be replaced as a B minor in any progression. Then we'll do some examples of how it sounds in context, all right? So the traditional way to play B minor that you'll see in books and stuff is you bar the 2nd fret with your pointer finger, get the 4th fret on the D string and G string with your ring finger and your pinky, and your middle finger on the 3rd fret, that's a D note, on the B string, right? And then get the highest 5 strings. Okay, those bar chords can be kind of tough, right? But, again, I think the easiest way to think about B minor is using a shape that you already know, like A minor, and then just 2 frets higher, okay? So, again, this triad is hidden in this shape, right? It's the same thing as A minor, just higher. And if you get the open strings with it, it gives you this cool chimey open sound. Again, A is the lowest note. When you hit that open A over a B minor chord, again, I'm thinking B minor, all right? And this will work as a replacement for a B minor, but because you have the lowness of that A string or even the E string, if you get all 6, it'll be kind of like an interesting thing, and people will be like, wow, what an interesting arrangement this person has done, when all you've done is skipped B minor and just taken that root B out. Again, you still have a B here, right? The G string, 4th fret, is still a B. So we're getting the essence. It's mostly B minor, you know? If you do want to hit the root note, there's another one that you can use that's also super easy, and it looks like this. Okay, so now my root note here is a B. My middle finger is on the 2nd fret of the A string. I'm leaving that D string wide open. Then I'm getting my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the G string and my pinky on the 3rd fret of the B string. Again, you can use different voicings like this if you want. Doesn't matter what fingers you use, because that's going to be contextual as compared to where you're coming from, what chord you're coming from, where you're going to next. But I think that's like a great B minor type chord that you can always use, right? So, like I said, contextually, sometimes you might really want to hit that root note to kind of like hammer home the fact that like this is a B chord, or maybe this one will sound more like an A, right? An example of that is maybe if you're ascending to something, if I'm going like a major, B minor, D progression, right? A, B minor. In like a solo accompanying way of doing that, you kind of want that A, B, D sound, right? That's why the bass note or your root note is really kind of important on guitar when you're playing solo, because the lowest note really does have like a huge impact on how you're perceiving that chord. So it's good to kind of maybe hit that A. See how much easier that is to do A, B minor, D, instead of A, B minor, D. There's so much more movement going on, right? This is why it's all about working smarter and not harder. Because like, you know, I'm playing A major right here, then I really have to kind of move my whole arm to get to that B minor, and it can take a second, you know? So just A, B minor, that alternative one, and then you can just play a D like this. Again, I'm just getting open D, 2G, and 3B. I don't need to make it the regular D major like that. In fact, one of the reasons I actually, in my own playing, I don't really play this traditional voicing that much is because I don't really love having that F sharp on top. The top on top just meaning the highest note that you play, right? In fact, a lot of times, you'll just see people play a D like this, where I'm just getting the D, G, and B string, because now the melody note, the on top note, the note that you hear stick out more, is a D, right? When you have it be an F sharp, it has a totally different vibe, and it kind of resolves in a different way. So, again, thinking about how you want to play these chords really does have an impact on how your playing is going to sound, right? So again, just an example of maybe this, A major, to the first B minor that we did, where we just moved A minor down 2 frets. That's kind of like a cool, it sounds different. It's all in the same key, it's all essentially the same progression. Sounds different too, right? Getting that B string root note sounds different than A. Again, is one better than the other? No, it's just dependent on how you want to do things. But I found that it just keeps me more engaged, kind of swapping out different chord voicings, and I think it just makes your playing sound a little bit more interesting. And again, it might keep you more engaged, more interested to practice more if you just kind of know that you have more options available to you, right? So again, that's just us going through all the chords in the key of D. D, E minor, F sharp minor, G, A, any B minor chord you choose, and then we'll go back to D, all right? So another thing I want to talk about is just using those open strings to our advantage more to kind of maybe make some cool creative stuff, all right? So let's take that traditional D major voicing. One thing that I like the sound of is maybe replacing notes lower in a chord, but still keeping the same strumming pattern. So what I mean by that is, let's do something like this. All right, all I'm doing is I'm taking my pointer finger and I'm lifting it up. So we got the 2nd fret on the G string, which is an A, which again, the notes of a D major chord are D, F sharp, and A. So I'm taking that A, and I'm taking it to a G, alright? And I think this is kind of like a cool way to dance around a D major. I'm still firmly in the key of D major, but opening up any of those strings is going to be considered staying in the key, right? So just kind of take some of these chord voicings and then just open up a string, right? We could just take D, open it up, maybe the A chord that we did before, open up the B string, or do the same thing with the G string. Let's do it with the D string. That's the beauty of these keys where the open strings are all in the key, is you can really create these cool open chimey sounding things by doing less. Okay, so that works for anything further down the neck too. I think you know, if you get into bar chords and stuff, like maybe like this D major chord right here, where your pointer finger's on the 5th fret of the A string. So this is an A string rooted bar chord where it's like 5, 7, 7, 7, and then 5 on the high string. If you can really jam your finger in there. Again, that's kind of, I would say that's more of like a, you know, intermediate advanced chord, but you don't have to make it that way. Let's use that open D string to help us kind of navigate this and just take something easy, like the 7th fret of the G and the B string, like that. And then you can get your pointer finger, because now your pointer finger is free, to still keep that 5th fret on the high E string. So this is like a super easy way to play a different D chord higher up if you don't want that F sharp to be on top of the chord. In fact, one thing that I think it's kind of fun to maybe like end the resolution of a song is to jump back and forth between voicings of the same chord. So for example, you could just start with this D chord, switch, maybe even go a higher, and again the higher one is really just 12D, there's your octave, and then just like an F shaped triad, 12, 11, 10, 1, 3, 4, right? So it looks like you're doing a lot, but you won't regret it. Kind of like I did regret having that test read to me. That's a true story, actually, by the way. It only happened one time. We were taking an exam, and the proctor was like, if you want this exam read to you, and you need like extra special time, now's the time to do it. And I was like tired. I don't want to read an exam to myself. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go check it out. So then I go in this room, and this proctor just awkwardly read a test to me, and it took probably 4 hours when it should have taken 45 minutes. So maybe that wasn't the best example of working smarter, not harder. But, you know, I rolled the dice. That's what life's about. Rolling the dice, taking a chance, playing D major way up here. You won't regret it. It's a memory. It's an experience that we've just shared together. So thank you for checking this out. And again, maybe just take a few things. Maybe if this is just all you take, that B minor chord, that different type of sounding B minor chord, just try to incorporate it in your playing, and you might be surprised with how it kind of just spices things up. So thanks for checking it out. If you like lessons like this, check out my Patreon. I have them in order with a bunch of song lessons and stuff too. Then hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, website, YouTube comments if you have any questions. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.